Blog Talk Radio.
Now listening to the Evolution Hour with hosts Rob Gauthier and George Spirakis. Hey everybody, this is the Rob and George Enlightenment Evolution Hour, and this is Rob, and George is not here today. Unfortunately, he's not here to join in with his abilities and his knowledge to join in, but I'm here today by myself and I'm ready to take any callers wanting. I didn't know what I wanted to talk about, but traveling seems to be a big theme. This is where George is at. He's traveling. My wife's getting ready to leave on her vacation tomorrow, and soon after I'll be able to take a nice little vacation too. So I want to talk about our journeys. It's not the same as traveling really, but it is kind of. We have journeys in life. And I want to talk about some of the things that me and Treb have been able to connect about. I want to talk about some of your guys' experience, so whoever wants to give in a call, I'd be more than glad to talk about any journeys you wish to share, or if there's anything else in your mind. Remember, we're here for you. We're here because we want to help raise the collective consciousness with everyone, and this means whatever's on your mind. Any subject, there's none that are off, or there are none that are taboo. We're here to do them all. And I think with the journey thing, this is a good idea to talk about. I want to talk a little bit about my journey at first. And like I said, any callers want to call in, don't worry about me talking. I can definitely make room for any callers that need to. My journey starts off when I'm young, Christian family, Christian home, a lot of morals. My family was really big into church. My dad, my mom, they both ran bus ministries in South Carolina for a while. They both ran bus ministries when we moved to Michigan. They were really big parts of the church. My dad was a deacon. My mom was an avid churchgoer. She really loved God. She loved church, Christ, all the things about church. And during this time, she goes in, and I'm being raised in this religiously. And I know it's kind of a oxymoron when I'm using it in this way, but religiously we went to church. We went every week. We went on Sundays. We also went on Wednesdays. We would go Sunday mornings, Sunday evenings, and Wednesday evenings every week, and any function they had from A to B, we were a part of. So we go to church. We learn a lot. I always had questions in the church. I always had a lot of ideas about religion in general. There would be teachings that they would give to us, and when we would approach it with answers, even as a child, my mind could wrap around certain questions that were focused in on things that I seen as contradictions in the Bible, or things I kind of seen as, well, maybe this shouldn't be in there. And I'd always approach the pastor, a deacon, just a trusted adult, and I would ask them, why is this? And I remember a lot of ones, very specifically, my biggest complaint as a kid, I looked at the Bible and I said, well, I don't understand the 10 Commandments. And they said, well, what's not to understand about it? I said, well, it's not the 10 I don't understand. It's the 100 and some odd before that no one ever talks about. Why don't those get talked about? Well, those really aren't meant for today's day. It's meant for times back then. And I said, well, yeah, it's very apparent that a lot of those don't belong. And I would go through the list of them, and I found a couple of them that were pretty disturbing, actually. There was a lot about slavery. If you have a slave, you may send it up, give him or her freedom, and if they choose to be back to you, then you can forever keep them. And I thought, and I don't know the exact words, but it's basically that general idea. If you look through the extended Exodus, in the extended commandments, you'll see what I'm talking about. But, what slave with a whip on his back would not commit their love to their master? Which one wouldn't say, hey, I'll stay with you, even though it's against? And there's a lot of them that did that. So it kind of frustrated me, kind of shook me loose. But when I was asked, I was always told, just believe what we're telling you. It's in the book. It's written by God himself. It has to be true. So that's great. I do that. I go through. But as I get older and older, the more I get disconnected. And there was one experience specifically. We had a church go-over, where we stayed the night, a lock-in, I think they called it, and we stayed the night there. And what I did is I was there with a friend, a good friend that I grew up with, and another friend who we knew only through the church. And the kid who was in the church was kind of a troublemaker, and he used to get in a lot of stuff. And there was one specific thing that he did on that night, and the preacher came to us and said, "Hey, I know what's going on. You guys quit doing this. Stop." I think he was going into a certain room he wasn't supposed to and eating food or something ridiculous like that. And so we said, okay. And then he did it again. And he came to us and said, "I'm tired of this guy. Quit." Did it again, and he blamed me. At that point, I was in my transition phase of trying. I was really questionable about everything that was said at church, so they seen me as a troublemaker because I was always asking, why doesn't this make sense? Why doesn't this resonate? And I would go ahead and do that. And he grabbed me by the shirt and threw me up against the wall and kind of choked me with my shirt. And at that point, I thought to myself, well, this isn't very Christian-like of the pastor of the church to be doing this. So I left the church, and I left it for a long time. And that's around the same time, as I said, I was in a transformation that I started getting a disconnection. Into the younger years, 13, 14, is when I really started blossoming the other way. So perhaps not blossoming, but the opposite of that. And I went into a lot of things that were very negative, violence, all sorts of bad things. I went down this path for a while until our son was born. And my son is very great. He's a very great kid. He's pure love. He has cerebral palsy, and what this is, it's brain damage that affects physical, and each person is different, so there's different parts of that affect different people. So basically, my son was born when I was approximately 19. I believe I had just turned 19 a couple months before that, and then he was born. That gave me the opportunity to refocus my life. I stopped with all the violence, all the troublemaking I was doing, and I stopped for a while. And I just got into my son. I mean, building up to that moment, I really didn't even really want to be a father until the moment I laid eyes on him. And then I did. He was so beautiful. I just fell in love with him. All my connections started coming back. And slowly, it started coming back more and more and more. And I started digging into my morals again. I started living within a certain code. I disconnected myself from all the negative things that I had been testing and experiencing. So during that time, he got to be about 2 years old, and this was a very rough part for our life. Me and my wife were living on our own. We had left our parents' house, so we were living and we were surviving and doing the day-to-day things that a lot of people can relate to. And during that time, what we did, we started noticing that our son's problems were very bad. When we left the hospital, they told him, this is going to be a problem. He'll have seizures. But that's the extent of it. They really didn't tell us that there was brain damage. They didn't tell us what kind of things to look forward to. And I know a lot of that was lack of knowledge from their part. You can't really distinguish these things as a child's firstborn. But once he got to be about 2, we really realized the gravity of the situation of our son's condition. And this shook both of us up. It scared me. I got really scared. I don't know how to deal with this. We started learning that, he might not ever talk. He might not ever walk. We might have to take care of him. He might have a very short life. And all these things were a very, very heavy burden for a 20-year-old man, a 21-year-old man who had basically been disconnected his whole teenage life up to that point, and then tried to find. So I started disconnecting, and that fear of that was very, very rough on me, very, very heavy. It weighed on me bad. And once I started disconnecting, I started getting back into the swing of the old things. And through various measures, too lengthy to speak of at this time, I moved into that negative light again. And there was a point about 3 years after that I became so disconnected, so depressed, so disconnected, angry, mad at the whole situation. The only thing that I ever held on to was being a father. That was the one thing that never dropped, never released. Literally, I have to take care of my son almost every minute of every day. He has to be fed. He has to have his diaper changed. He has to have all these things done for him. So literally, I always kept that. I always kept my love. I always kept love for my family. And as this started going on, I basically came to a point where there were about 8 years of this disconnection. Probably a little less than that, probably about 6 to 7 years of a real bad disconnection. And finally, I just snapped out of it. It was time to be done with this. And during this journey, I was so excited. I mean, I was so happy to be out of this. It was just instantly. One day I was done. My son's love helped me. My wife, she was very adamant about me changing, about me getting better too at that time. So it really helped bring me out. And as I go out, I really start looking at things much differently. I start seeing things for what they are. I start seeing nature's beautifulness. I start seeing all these things. And I really, really wanted to find out what was going on with myself. I wanted to know why I felt so good. I wanted to rediscover not the religious part of me, but I wanted to look at the spiritual part. And I had had enough dealing with the past of the inconclusions and all of these half-backwards ideals that I had went through as my young teenage and young child self through the Church of Christianity and the specific churches that my parents had went. I wanted to do something different. And I look at my beliefs. And during that disconnection, I had no beliefs. I had no belief in nothing. I believed that we were here because we were mechanically made to be here. Nature took its course. Evolution took its course. That's why we're here. When you die, you're gone. You might live on energetically through the ground. You know, you become food for the animals and, you know, recycle. So your energy might be here. And that's the best I could get for spiritual self, really. That was the best conclusion I could ever come around at that point of disconnection. That was like the very best thing I could think. So I re-explored this, and I realized this can't be. All this beauty that lies in front of me, all of these things that seem to be so beautiful to me, there's got to be something deeper. It's just got to be something more than what I think. And I find a commonality. I find something in all religions, the evolution or the eternalness of a spirit, of your soul. Some say you're reincarnated. So I really didn't know how to go about that. But I knew that I enjoyed quiet time. So I started meditating, learning how to meditate simple things. And I started looking around churches in the area that didn't have such a hardcore turn on the Bible. It didn't have such a Christ-centered God religion. I loved Christ's teachings. I always did. So it wasn't really that. But it just wasn't so bent on the ideals of Jesus is the Son of God and he is this and that and this, and labeling him, plus all these Old Testament things that never contradicted completely what Jesus said. I just wanted to get away. So I found this spiritualism church, and I don't know how many of you out there practice spiritualism or have been involved with spiritualism in one way or another, but spiritualism is a pretty awesome religion. I still see too much religious aspects in it, and there's a lot of other issues that I can get into later, I guess, if anyone ever wants to talk about those, that I didn't really care for. But the one thing that drove me absolutely wild about this church is that they meditated. They accepted, and they said that they can talk to people who had passed. That, again, was always one of my passions when I was younger. I always thought of the afterlife. I knew that there was ghosts around. I'd actually had experience as a child, even one talking to my grandmother after she had passed for over 20 years as a real young child. I'm thinking probably 6, 7, 8 years old. So, I mean, really, I knew that that existed. I watched all these shows about ghosts. You know, just the science in it was enough to keep me in my disconnected times connected to there is ghosts. Seeing all of the electromagnetic energies that they are, all these things, man, just really fascinated me. So I focus in on this church and I go. And I meet up with this guy. I met him online before I ever went to the church. And he was a very, very great guy. All the things he said about that church felt right to me. And I went. I took my wife, dropped my son off. You know, I didn't want him coming. I wanted to get a reading and meet these people first before I introduced my son. And at that point, I still, you know, with the belief systems I had, I believed that, you know, this could be a hokey-pokey cult. You know, it could be they're calling on bad spirits and that can get around my son. So I just kind of kept away. But it sounded great. I mean, it really did. So I took my wife, went, and we had a blast. We meditated. We got connection. We had one guy do a reading, and it was so spot on perfect. I mean, this was just absolutely brilliant, spot on perfect, about my son, who I had never told this man online that I met before this, who had talked about one of my dad's great-great-grandmothers, who I never even knew about, a Native American lady. I can't remember her name, but I remember the name specifically is what linked to the message that was given in spirit. So I was so excited. This is right up my alley. This is perfect. I love this stuff. And I kept going back, and there was some issues with my wife's family and their belief systems. They thought if you have to drive an hour to go to a church when there's thousands of them around here, it must be a cult, all these things. So I had to do the argument parts with them for a little bit. But besides that, I really loved it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was beautiful. So I kept going back for a while, and then they taught me how to meditate. I told them, I said, I want to do what you guys do. I want to be able to connect to spirit like, well, anyone can. And I was like, no, not just anyone can, but yeah, anyone can. And I said, all right, well, teach me. And the very first couple times, I had seen, I know a lot of people know about the old spiritualism church. They have the plasma things that they see. And we actually had seen what appeared to be a light violet plasma. And it wasn't like really solid state like a lot of people think it is, but it was really clear. It was the essence of energy light. Now I know it's vibrational soul energy light, whatever you want to call it, and that's what we were seeing. Back then I was just so fixated on that plasma coming up, and I said, wow, this is an awesome experience. They taught me a bunch. So I quit going to the church because of the family issues. I didn't want to cause ruckus with my wife's family, and I kept going. I said, I kept going with the meditation part and quit going to the actual church. I stayed in contact. I still talk to many of them. I still talk to a lot of them from that church still. But I go through, I start my own meditation. And I did great for a while, but I hit a wall. And I said, what is this wall about? Why can't I connect? I could get simple messages, little things here and there that would say, like I had forgotten that one of my parents' best friends that they had, son had died when he was young. And I heard their first names. I heard both their first names in my own mind. And then I felt a jolt through my body. It felt like I was almost electrocuted. And I asked my mom and dad, do you remember so-and-so and so? And they said, yeah. And I said, tell me a little bit about them, because I didn't remember them. I was a little kid when we used to talk to them. And they had reminded me that one of their sons had died at a young age because he ran over an electric line. So little stuff like that. It wasn't big. It wasn't really noticeable. But I was often explained to go with myself there. If you feel something, don't fight it. Just believe it. Believe in your own ability. Don't resist. And that's a lot of things I still have to talk to tons of people through meditation. How do I know what I'm getting is coming from spirit or coming from a higher self instead of just directly coming from me? And I tell them, don't worry about that. I was taught that's irrelevant because the message is the message. Whether it's coming from spirit or yourself, it's still coming from a higher vibration if you don't have access to it in your day-to-day regular, crazy mindset. One of my good friends, Shakir, says that it's the monkey mind, and that's a good way to express it, I guess. So my daily monkey mind couldn't figure it, then it's spirit. It's something that's better than where you're coming from in the daily. So I accepted that. But that's all I could do. So I called down on the internet's knowledge base or access, and I just looked everywhere for better meditations. And I stumbled to the HemiSync. And many people have asked me about this. The meditations that I'm using for this was called HemiSync. That's Monroe Institute's HemiSync Gateway Experience. Now, this is a 6-wave meditation set. And in each wave, there are 6 meditations in each one. So, I say that's great, So I start there. And, it really, really worked for me. It took me 4 months to do it, and I hurried way, way faster than I ever should have. I hurried probably twice as fast as I could. Everyone I know now does it at least 6 months or more, and I went through it way too fast. But it raised my experience in meditation way up. I could feel my body vibrating. I could float inside of myself. I could start leaving my body. And I went through this, as I said, for 4 months. After that, maybe about 6 months after I finished that, this is when I met Treb. And this is a very well-known story. I won't bore you with all the vivid details, but basically I got disconnected, meditated, connected with Treb. In that meditative state, it was an astral projected state. I connected to Treb that night. I was very disconnected. I had a feeling of loneliness. I'd look up at the stars and wanted to be amongst them. And I just dug in. And that was such a wonderful experience. And after meeting Treb, I really didn't understand if this was me, if this was my mind kind of playing with itself, if it was anything that had to do with the actual binaural beats in the meditations. And I really wondered, am I going crazy? My wife instantly thought I was. Yeah, you're going nuts. So I didn't go back for almost 3 or 4 days. And by then, you got to understand, at this point in my meditation life, I was literally meditating 3 times a day, plus several hours of my closed eyes awareness technique. So really, I couldn't go 3 days without meditating, and that's what killed me. That's what made me say, no, I've got to go back and try this again. And I did, and I met Treb again, and I talked to him again. And the 3rd or 4th time I talked to him, I said, hey, this is a little much for me. I can't understand why this is happening. Can't understand what you really want to do to talk with me about. I don't understand what I did to cause this. But I need to know, are you a part of my mind? If you are who you say you are, if you are real, let me know. Give me a sign. Talk to your friend Scott, my dear friend Scott. He's been a friend of mine since I was 4. Still talk to him every day. Still a very, very great guy. And I called him, and Treb said, don't tell him it's me. Don't tell him nothing about me, because at the time he was not a very spiritual guy. Or at least didn't want to dig into aspects. He's like, if you can't prove it, I don't want to know about it. And still, in some ways, he had some of that still left in him. Even though I think I've seen such huge changes in him, he won't let you know that he's changed. But so basically, what we did, I call him. He leads me to this UFO video, which starts talking about telepathic communication with ETs, which led to channeling. And there was only probably a 5, 6, 7-minute clip out of this whole 2-hour video that talked about channeling. But it was enough for me to get the names Law of One, Seth material. I dug into Seth. I loved it. It was just beautiful. But that's what stuck out in my brain. And again, I want to remind you guys before I go on any further, if you feel like calling, I know you might be enjoying the story, but please feel free to call in. The number is area code 347 308-8788. Again, that's 347-308-8788. Or you can always sign in to Blog Talk Radio and call in on the Skype button. That way you don't have to use your phone. But let me continue now. So I dug into the Seth material. That's what stuck out, so I pulled it. I listened. The very first thing I found online was these 2 one-hour excerpts from Seth Speaks, and it wasn't even Seth's material, it was Seth Speaks, The Eternal Validity of Soul. I listened to him. Right there I knew. Everything that Treb talked about, evolution of the soul, growth within yourself, you create your own reality, all these similar concepts expressed in very different points of view, very different language. And obviously I didn't know a lot of the terminologies, densities, oversouls. I didn't know any of this stuff. So Treb had to relay it in a more gentle way, a dumbed down version, if you will. And it was fine. It was beautiful. I enjoyed it very much, and it was the same thing Treb was on. So that, to me, improved. It was real. So I just kept going on. I kept talking to Treb. And at that point, again, coming from years of disconnection, I really had to test who Treb was. So I would sit with him. And I would visit him every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, in my astral projected state. I knew that all I had to do was go beyond the 21 state, which is a certain technique they teach through the Hindi sync, the 21 state. All I knew is I had to go through and past that 21 state. And I would be able to do it. And basically what I did is I would go there every day and just chat with him, and I would test him and see, what he's saying and see how it felt to me. And with, I had already thought the information was amazing. But again, having that problem trusting anyone or anything, especially with the spiritualism church beliefs that negative energies, negative spirits, all these things, that kind of scared me, into being very, I don't know, I guess kind of worried in some ways, but, I just kept my distance emotionally. I didn't attach to him emotionally. I wanted to hear what he had to say first. So I took it all in intellectually. Emotionally, I didn't connect. But after less than a month and a half, 2 months, I started connecting to him on that heart level. And it was such a brilliant thing. And this is what leads us up into the public channeling. I talked to him for 2 years. And ever since then, I've started my public channeling. A lot of the old public channeling isn't around anymore. It's not posted. Understanding of my connection to him back then opposed to what it is now is so much different. The connection flows so well. All of you have heard what you think is old sessions would die if you heard some of the first ones, because it's so much slower and so much harder to understand. And it's just so much different. But I noticed that as I grow, my connection to him grows. And no matter what, even the best session that we've ever had through a channeled state does not compare to even, I would say probably 70 or 80% of what I experience him as in the astral projected state. And that's something that I find is so beautiful, is being able to hang in with him like that, to hang out, to express ourselves with each other energetically. So much more is achieved in that state in my thought pattern. So much more is given back and forth to both of us. And I think that that's something that's also helped me too. Every time I connect to him, I kind of integrate more with his teachings. And it's not just because I've been hearing it over and over. I've known almost everything there is to know about the basic information after the first 6 months of talking to him. Every time we connected, I knew that stuff by heart, really. But it was the bigger stuff. It was the integration of those things coming easy to me. And the more I connect to him, the more I get. And even to this day, I still grow. A lot of people believe because someone's able to channel that they're perfect, because someone's able to meditate very deeply or astral project, that they are yogis, that they are enlightened beings to the highest degree. And that's just, it's not true. We're all humans here. We're all having this experience. And that's my story I wanted to talk to you guys about journeys. And if anyone wants to call, give a call up. The number I've given to you is 347-308-8788. That's America, Canada. Area code's 347-308-8788. Give me a call, and I'd love to chat with you about whatever you want. So let's go to another concept, another idea real fast. Speaking of the growth in our own selves, speaking of daily growth, I've seen so many people who I've been close to really growing a lot lately. And the ones who haven't been growing as much have been going through these pretty rough turmoils, emotionally, mentally, in their day-to-day life. They just kind of go through this turmoil. And it's being caused because we're in that Enlightenment era. We're in that evolution point of our existence. A lot of people, the 2012 thing is sore subject with a lot of people, but what Treb's always explained to us is this is the beginning of what we can call a consciousness density. And that is ourselves growing in a soul, us growing to a new level of consciousness. Even physically, our bodies being able to change and connect to more DNA. There's all these variations of what this fourth density means. But the main thing about this growth from 2012, it was the beginning. This is the time that marks that we have grown very strongly, and we're now starting to get to that Enlightenment era. And I've seen so many things change this year. We've got the people in Brazil right now. Treb just talked about that recently, not specifically, but he said a lot of changes, people fighting their governments physically. He said something that I really tend to agree with, is that fighting, standing up for your own rights, representing yourself as a sovereign being who will not be infringed upon is absolutely acceptable. But what most of us don't understand is when we fight, when we go to that level where we're ready to commit violence against others because we believe it's what we need to protect ourselves, this is not really standing up for yourself. It's not really growth. It's adding fight to the situation. You are manifesting more fight with that energy. And that's not saying I'm judging anyone who chooses to do it that way, because that's how I've done it my whole life up until these last few years of my life, these last 5-6 years that I've been connecting more to Treb and trying to find enlightenment myself. This is how my default setting was. I need to stand for my rights, so I'm going to fight. That's fine. I understand that mindset. I understand the concepts behind it. But this physical fighting thing, this physical imbalance, the thing that makes you need to feel that you're protected, or the thing that makes you feel the need that you have to be right, that you have to be sovereign, and that you'll do anything to defend it, that's great. But the whole concept is that the only reason these entities are here, the only way that they can be experienced, is imbalance within us. And so many of us have told these little stories in our head over and over and over again that relay the message and concept in our own mind of this is a fight. I have to fight these people. There are so many people that are out to suppress me, that this story is being played out right in front of you. We are such masters of manifesting any reality we want. So many people just don't realize it. So many people don't understand the power that they have behind their thought. And this is why things tend to get sped up a little bit when you're in a really high energetic place. And that doesn't matter if you're high good energetic or high bad energetic. The more energy you put into it, the quicker it comes back to you. And this is why we find when we're in those frustrated, angry, want to kill the whole world type days, that so many people get into, that's why you see the bad days unfold in front of you. That's why you see something, a flat tire smacked to the face, getting lost on your trip, a smack in the face. All of these things are fine. All of these things are being given by ourselves. All of these things are being done by ourselves. We've got a phone call right now. Let me take 1 second, and I'll be right on this phone call. All right. Chris from Australia, are you there?
I'm here.
How you doing, bud?
I'm doing well.
So what does he want to talk about?
Oh, just anything, really. Yeah. A lot of the things in your story that you've told, I could relate to, growing up in a religious household and everything.
Sure.
Like, I've always been really into spiritual things. Like, I've spent a great many hours meditating and everything just self-taught. Like, when I was a teenager, I just learned to go within myself. About at age 17, I knew nothing about chakra systems and so on. One day, I just decided that's it. About 30 seconds in, something just clicked, and I felt this overwhelming presence of just like love, like energy. I was in that for a short while, and I tried it again a few days later, and I could go into it even further. Every time, it was like my consciousness was multiplied by 1,000-fold. And I heard these like lightning strikes, and each time it'd go like, more intense. And I'd last in these states for like many hours. But one day, like I got this communication, this voice. It just said the time is now, and I was like, nah, not going to put up with this, and I just switched off. for
Okay.
a while, even though. And the interesting thing was a person from a church had like prophesied. It's like, I told no one nothing about this, and it was like, do not fear the energy that flows through you. But I just kind of disconnected, because I think what would happen is like my heart would like be like one beat a minute, or like stopped. I could easily go 15 minutes without breathing. Like many hours had passed like instantly. The more aware I was, the faster time would pass around me. If you know what I'm talking about?
Sure. I get to points, and that's kind of what holds a lot of people up with getting real deep into meditation. They feel that slowing down of breathing so much where they're not consciously breathing, they're not remembering to breathe, and it really scares them.
Yeah. Because it'd feel like hours would go by, sometimes, and I wouldn't be breathing. I was just wondering if there was a risk or something, that was always in the back of my head. You know what I mean?
Sure. And that's something that's very common for people. As I just said, I get so many people who talk to me about the deep meditations right before astral. That's something that usually happens. It's a slowing down of the breathing to a degree that doesn't even really let you know that you're breathing, but that's fine. In meditative state, even in the deepest states that you can go, the deltas and theta states of the brain waves, to where the Buddhist monks are able to go, those types of breathing become a subconscious function of the brain, so you'll never, ever have to worry about dying or stopping breathing. And this presence that you felt, too, this is something that a lot of people do. The first time they get connected to, it's very jarring, very frightening. Yeah. And that's something, too, that I really try to explain to people. Try to not jar yourself mentally with the idea of something's here. Most of the people who I know who are going through this are going to connect to spirit. So be happy you got there. Accept it. Feel the energy for itself. Don't dig into your own fear. Just be neutral. And if you feel a negative presence, then you disconnect. But most people who are going in with intents of love, intents of connection, and intents of growing, you won't connect to those negative beings.
Yeah. Anyway, that happened in about 2001 early. I was about 17 then. And anyway, I decided again to really try, like back in 2009. Like that's when I really consider myself as awoken. Like I abandoned like many like concepts I had, on how the universe worked and everything. It was like things just made sense. And I was and for about 3 weeks from morning to evening, I would just, focus on like energy work, like, on like the, what's the word for it, dantians, and like 12 chakra system. I just go morning to evening for about 3 weeks straight. And then I came across this manual, that Merkaba. You've heard of it, most likely.
Oh, yeah.
Ezekiel's Wheel, yeah. I tried it, and boom. I'm the first breath took that pyramid. For about 15, 20 minutes, I could just see into another reality. It was like a mist, and in between,
too, wasn't
it was like I saw beings. Yeah, it was, and even light rays from the sunlight, because I could see into this reality. I could walk around and see into the other reality at the same time. And I thought it was like pretty amazing, But the people couldn't see me back, but I could see them just wandering around and doing their own thing. If you know what I mean.
Sure.
Yeah. Sure enough.
go ahead.
Yeah, sure enough, a few days later, I could actually feel tactilely on the Merkaba field around me, which was pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
What were you going to say? Yeah.
I was going to say that during the experiences, a lot of the times, I've learned a lot from my channel. He's explained to me a lot of the differences in energetic levels. Some people call it density, some call it dimensions, but vibrational levels on top of each other, there are many of them. There aren't just the first through sixth density that we think in physical reality, but there's also mid-levels between where they spend their unincarnated existence, their non-physical existence, and then there's also some that are just slightly above the middle and slightly below the middles too, and those are different realms as well. And sometimes when you're raising your own vibration very highly, this allows you to experience something where other beings can't quite interact with you, because even though your vibration's either above them or below them, it's not at the same level. And you have to have perfectly matching vibration. And when I astral project to connect to Treb, that's one thing that he does with me, is he'll come down to the level where I'm at, because he's such high vibrationally compared to where I can even go in astral, that he's got to come down, and we have a mid-level meeting place, and that's kind of where our interactions take place. And that's another reason I decided to start channeling too, is so that I could give this experience to other people. I found the information that Treb gave was so wonderful and so beautiful and so intricate. I had to share that with other people. I had to give them the chance to experience it themselves. And the question I've got for you then is, when you're connecting to that energy you pulled back, have you ever tried to reconnect to another energy, or have you had any experiences similar to that?
Okay, when I was playing with the macabre, it was about the 7th day, this is when it happened. I was lying down and listening to those solfeggio frequencies, if you're familiar with them. And I, momentarily when I was lying down, I, kind of passed out, but then I became instantly, aware again, and it was like, how should I say, the energy was flowing through my hands like water coming out of a fire hose, really fast, and I had this, holographic vision, in front of me, and I saw the instructions of the macabre and, the following sacred geometry of what is done after that, and that lasted for about 10 minutes. And I was totally comfortable with that.
Sure.
Which I found very fascinating, because the resolution was way beyond anything you'd get from a computer monitor or anything. It was really clear.
Oh, sure. It becomes unexplainable to words for people. Most people are so far outside of that experience. It is hard to relay the message. My one question for you, for all the people who might be listening in right now or who listen to this later, what is some simple tricks or some simple ideas that you can give someone that can help them along with finding deeper meditative states? Because so many people are trying to meditate now. They're trying to achieve either astral states or at least states that are so far above where their day-to-day brain is at that they're able to find downloads from higher self or exchange of information. So what is some of the more basic non-complex? I know the Merkaba, the mini systems of the Merkaba can be terribly overcomplicated for many people, and I myself am a firm believer of the more simplistic ways, because I know that, in meditation, it's kind of like a belief system. We know that we can achieve things through certain permission slips, I guess, that we use day to day. So is there any of the simpler things that you can elaborate to these people that will help them understand how you're able to go in, or can help them themselves go in deeper?
I find going alone to a park or something with lots of nature, I find spending an hour there, I find I'm able to reconnect quite well. Also, my personal diet, I live a lot on vegetable juices and that.
Sure.
I find when my diet is healthier, I could reconnect better, and I could feel the energy around me much more clearly.
Absolutely. Is there anything in meditative state, again, you get to these points where your bodies can either not be comfortable or they become so comfortable you fall asleep. There's also complaints about the breathing thing. How did you first deal with this breathing thing when you first started getting that sensation? What did you do with that?
The breathing thing's always been interesting, because in the beginning, when I didn't think about, the breathing, is anything going to go wrong? Is it going to be, weird? I had no problems with it whatsoever. And, because I'd focus on, being in that state of love, or moving the energy from my feet upwards, so I could enter a good state, and there was no problems. If I don't focus on a problem, there won't be a problem, if you know what I mean.
Sure, absolutely. And a lot of people get to that point, and it just kind of jars them so much. My first experience with Treb that I was explaining before, when I first met him, it was a visual astral projected state, and the sight of him scared me. He's very different looking compared to what any of us look like. A lot of people call him ETs, whatever they call it, but he was much different looking than what I expected. I didn't expect to see anyone or anything there by chance, but during that it kind of shook me. But the vibration of them took them over. It kind of calmed me, and it was a sedative almost. Is there any suggestions you might be able to give for anyone with new experience who kind of have a subconscious fear of going past the state that leads them to astral projected?
I think what you feed your mind before is very important. That when you're going to start going into any state, it's important to be in a good, peaceful place before it, where you're comfortable. And same with religious beliefs. You know, you kind of need to be in a good place with those. If you've grown up in an environment where everything's about demons and that, it's just can be a little bit of a challenge to some, I suppose.
Sure. And that's something I try to explain to a lot of people who just can't get comfortable. I always tell them, have a pre-meditation meditation. So what you do is you go in for 15 minutes, you independently tell every appendage, every spot on your body, starting from your feet to your head, to relax at the moment, and you get your body relaxed. Then you start your meditative state. Is there anything you wanted to say real quick before I let you go, Chris? Anything you'd like to share with anyone else?
Not much, really, except I'd like to thank you for all the postings you've made with channelings and that. I've been listening since right near the beginning, a few months after you went online. I even heard your older recordings. I never thought they were bad in any way. I quite liked them. Sure.
They weren't bad. They were just different compared to a lot of people who now listen to them. They're much different. And I appreciate it. I wasn't aware that you're one of my old-time listeners, one of the work followers, and I really, really appreciate the support everyone gives me out there. They give me the energy in my own self for when times might get tough or I feel a disconnection. Sometimes there's a want to relax and to step back, but I always get my energy from other people who kind of send their love and support. And I thank you so much for that, Chris, and I appreciate you coming on and chatting with us today.
Cheers.
All right, have a good one. You too, brother. Bye. All right, thank you, Chris, again. And that's something we can talk about too right now. I really enjoy meditation. I teach people meditation, and it's very, very difficult to go through. But I would suggest, if you are adamant about learning techniques, guided meditation, there's a few meditations. If you go to YouTube and you type in Treb, T-R-E-B, and then guided meditation, my videos will be the first two that pop up, or Treb Bor, T-R-E-B, space B-O-R, guided meditations, they'll pop up. Those are two good ones to learn technique. But I want to walk people through what it takes. A lot of people are very interested in not only in the meditative state, but also in the connection process through channeling. So I'm going to use some of this time now to talk about that until we get another caller in. I believe firmly that meditation, now so much that I understand the way things work better than I did when I first started, I really and truly believe that the meditative state is just a permission slip. But with that being said, I still need that permission slip myself to be able to get relaxed and to go into those deep states. So what I did is I learned this gateway experience, and there's certain techniques that had to be learned. But many people can't get into it and they can't relax. So like I was talking to Chris about this pre-meditation meditation, I think that this is very important. What you do is you sit back, you relax, and while we're talking about it, I'm going to do the same. You go back, you stretch out your body. I prefer to sit up. I always sit in a recliner-style chair. I never kick it back, but I always have my arms in and rest my head back. Not at quite a 45-degree angle, but, in between a 90 and 45. So my back and my head are further back than my bottom is. And I put my arms up on the rest, and I breathe in. You always breathe in deep through your nose, deep and slow, as deep as you can go. You're breathing in your nose and out your mouth, releasing it nice and slow. And you repeat that. The breathing is very important. And someone asked me recently, why is the breathing important? And the breathing is important because it centers us. It's the center to our entire physical systems. It's the center to our energetic chakras. It's also the center to our nervous system. The only thing that humans can do to relax their blood pressure, to relax their heartbeat, to relax their blood oxygen level. I'm not sure what they call blood pulse or something. All these things can be controlled by one thing alone, and that's breathing. So breathing is vital. It's something that we all have to learn to do if you're into the meditative state, and that's breathing into the nose deeply, exhaling deeply, and continuously doing this. This must be something, and most people who have a very busy mind that jumps around, I try to tell them, just focus on the breathing. That in itself is good. It can be bad at a point, and we'll get to that in a minute. The breathing, the letting go, relaxing each toe or all toes at the same time if you're that good. If you can do it all at once, it saves time, but, time's really not an issue with meditation, or it shouldn't be. Obviously, I know people have the day-to-day schedules, they have to keep up, but when it's meditation, all those things need to go to the back of your mind. We need to release the day-to-day life things. This is our time to connect with us, our higher selves, whatever we choose to do, and it starts through this way. So you relax your toes, your feet, your ankles, your heels, your calf muscles, your knees, the back of your legs, into your bottom, into your thighs, into your waist and hips, into your stomach, and then you bring up the relaxation. Some people do it from head to toe, some toe to head. It doesn't really matter. Start at one end, go to the other, go to every spot in the body, and let yourself be aware that you're relaxing it. Relax every single part of your body, and then you're ready for the new one. My meditation techniques that I use now are much, much more simple, less technique than it ever was before. And this is a simple breathing in, breathing out. At very first, I can do it now. Within a minute and a half, I can get to 21 state. But this is only because I've been able to practice it for so long. But for most people, what I suggest for people to start with is the actual visualization in your head of a box. You can make this box whatever shape, whatever color, whatever things you want to decorate, but you will be sitting there and you imagine yourself holding this box. And then you open the lid to it and bring everything from physical reality into this box. You start out with everything in the room, and it slowly sucks into the box, and everything in your house, everything in your yard, everything in your part of town, everything in your county, in your state, in your country. And the more stuff that gets pulled in, the quicker it goes. So at first you just slowly see your living room sucking in, and then it goes fast to your house, your city, your state, your world, and then all of a sudden the solar system, galaxy, mini galaxies, universe, multiverses, however complex you want to do it. Visualize all these things, and pretty soon you're left alone with this box. Then take your own self and place it in the box. Only your consciousness remains. And this is a beautiful concept. It helps you throw away everything that you're connected to in physical reality so that you may have the experience you wish to have. And this is a beautiful idea. Do all of that. Let it come in. Sit there for a moment, and then once you're done, there's several different techniques, and I won't get into all of them. One of the first ones, though, is to create a 10 state. Before we do the 10 state, there's always the breathing. It's called resonant tuning. And what this does is it allows you to vibrate the physical body so that the chakra areas can vibrate too. We as humans are very, very easily able to go in and to connect to the very lower chakras, the bottom three usually vibrate very heavily on its own. As humans, we always tend to have those vibrating. So let's get the other ones up. Let's get the heart. Let's get the neck. Let's get the third eye and the crown vibrating. And the way to do that is through this resonant tuning. This resonant tuning is a basic ohm, but it's a loud ohm. It's a shaking ohm. It's one that vibrates your whole physical body. And the way I do it, I can do what they call throat vibrating. Some people call it throat singing. Most people can't just do it. For some reason I could. But that consists of the I have to adjust the tone while I'm going through so that I may feel the vibrational differences. I go lower when I want it to vibrate less and higher when I want to vibrate higher. For me, to do channeling, I have to be at a specific vibrational level. I have to be able to feel all chakras at once. And this takes lots of practice, lots of time, lots of exploration in yourself to learn what this exact feeling or vibration is. But you go through that. You own until you feel yourself vibrating well. I usually do it. When I do it now, it's very quick. But when I used to do it, it would take maybe 5 minutes of oming. Really loud, deep breathing in, just the same as you would normally. And when you exhale, it's the over and over. This helps vibrate. Once you're done with this resonant tuning, then we go into the 10 state. And what the 10 state is the 10 state is a complete body relaxation with the mind completely awake. This can be attained easily just by visualizing, again, the number 10. When you're breathing in, you're breathing in light, you visualize the 10, and you make this 10, the light that you're breathing in, surround the 10 and go in a circle. You exhale, you breathe in more light, you make it go around the 10. This is all the techniques I learned through the HemiSync Gateway that helped me achieve the states that I can now. Once you're done with that, you get to a 10. You count slowly from 1 to 10 while you are visualizing that 10. So 1, your body's becoming more tired. 2, your body's completely relaxed. And each one you get more deep and deep into consciousness. The 21 state's very similar in that way too. The 21 state is the same as the 10 state, but you're counting higher. You're going deeper and deeper. And it is a bit of a permission slip. I understand that completely. But it's a self-hypnotization. And that is very, very important in these ways of being able to dig deeply into your own self. I think that this constant counting and deeper into state, this allows most people vibrationally to hypnotize themselves into this deep state, and that's fine too, but it's what works. Once you're into that 21 state, let go. You'll be in a very deep state, high. You're feeling vibrationally high. Your breathing will be almost not noticeable, except that a lot of people have problems with outside sounds, outside things that happen when they are going through their meditative state, and that is very, very difficult for them to deal with. Like a noise from the background, they always assume that concentration should be thrown off. Well, there was a meditation teacher by the name of Jack Kornfeld, and Meditation for Beginners is a program from him I suggest to all people who just start getting into meditation. It's very good. He teaches you that when these sounds come in, you let them hit you like a wave. You acknowledge them, you see they're there, you don't judge them, and you let them drift out slowly as a wave does. You just let that drift off. One moment here as I'm having a technical issue. I'll be back in 1 second. All right, and I'm sorry about that quick break. Now, as we see these distractions, just like we had just now, a noise, a sound, anything, even a car passing, feeling vibration in the house, an itch. A lot of people say, what happens when you itch? A lot of people itch. A lot of people yawn. That's fine. Itch, yawn. Don't let these things distract you. Again, recognize they're there, accept them, and let them roll back off. So do that. That's fine. You continuously do that, and then it comes back to you. You know, you just let it go out, and then you're back in the state. Continuously do that. Once you're in that 21 state or 10 state, you can literally go to any number you want. The beginning state is 10 state, that's complete body asleep, mind awake. The 12 state is slightly deeper than that, where you're expanding consciousness. The 15 state is even more than that. And then there's the 17 state, which is much deeper than the 21 state, which is the deepest they teach. I call it 21 beyond, is the point where you're able to astral project and leave physical body. So no matter which of those states that you wish to be in is fine. Count to whichever ones you want. But when you've reached the maximum level of your consciousness, vibration, meditative state that you prefer, what I suggest you do is then place an intent outwardly. Most of us meditate for a reason. We want to connect to higher self. We want to heal our bodies. We want to be able to recall memories. There are so many things that you can do in a meditative state that most of us can't in a non-meditative state. So what you do is you send your intent out in that. You say, I place my intent to connect to my higher self. I place my intent to connect with my higher self. And you say this over and over and over again in your head. You say it over and over. And once this repetition happens, you'll begin to realize that these words no longer carry anything more than vibration or feeling. Once it becomes a feeling instead of the physical word, then you let it out. Then you let that intention go out and wait for it to come back. Most people expect to have something back then. Don't do that. No expectations in meditation. Don't say, today I'm going in and I'm talking to my higher self right now. If you do that, you're going to cut out anything that's different than that, but isn't that. Let's say you say, I want to talk to a portion of my higher self that lives in the Pleiades. Well, now you've just cut off the chance to talk to your oversoul. You've cut off the chance to talk to humans who have passed. You've cut off the chance to talk to anything else. And it's not because you're not open to it. It's because you placed your intent. So if anything else happens, one of two things will happen. You won't be able to perceive it, or you won't recognize it as what you want, and therefore you won't pull on the cue. Let yourself be free. Clearing your thought. Chris made a wonderful statement when he talked about the idea of how your mindset is going in. When you go in, try to remove thoughts of good and bad. Try to remove any judgments that you have one way or the other. Try to remove any belief systems that you have that won't serve growth. Try to do all of those things. And I can do it now within 2 or 3 minutes. Sometimes it takes 15. Sometimes it takes a half hour. Train yourself to be neutral at everything. And this is more specifically for channeling than it is anything else. If you want to have good experience in meditation, I'm not saying you can't have good and happy and good thoughts. That's actually preferable to a negative. The neutrality is very important in channeling, but good thoughts, anything like that, just remove all the negative things. Try to neutralize yourself as best you can. Once you place that intent out, then let it come back to you. Let it roll back to you, just like that ocean and the wave going out with the distractions, but let it come into you this time. All these things are real useful tips for meditative state. I try to teach meditation. I've made 2 videos. I need to do more. I've been so busy lately doing sessions for people, which is going really well. A lot of people come because, again, I'm one of the only channelers that offers that free sessions for people still. Brad Johnson now started doing it again. There's a lot of things that a lot of people don't do. A lot of channelers don't connect to the idea of things that are free. They do it, and that's fine too. I'm not judging that. I'm not saying that's bad. That's fine. I also take donation sessions too. But these session things have been getting more busy. I've been getting more actively involved into all of the aspects of my excitement. And this Blog Talk Radio show is one of these extensions of my excitedness. It's one of the things that really gets me excited to be able to have people call in and ask questions, or just for me and George to get on here and blab and blab. We do this every day. If we recorded our phone calls back and forth to each other, we could post those. That's what really gave us the idea. George just said, I love doing this, brother. This is so fun, just me and you shooting the breeze, talking about these spiritual things. And he goes, man, how much people would this help? And I was like, it'd probably help a ton, and that's where we got this idea. It's a very beautiful concept just to be able to sit and communicate with everybody. It's really great. I really, really enjoy doing this. And I want to thank all of you guys who participated, not just today, but in any of the work. And if you're here for the first time, or if you're not aware of the channel work, that's not really important. The important thing is that we're able to all get together and talk. I'm gonna stay on here for a couple more minutes in case any more callers want to call on and give an opinion about something, or if any callers want to come on and chat about something. We have 25 minutes left on here, but without George, it's not flowing as easily as normal. So what I'll do is I'll keep it open here for anyone who wants to call in real quick. And through that, I guess I'll talk about continuing on the meditative things. Meditative states is important. It centers yourself. It helps you balance yourself. It really helps you explore the inner parts of you. A lot of people come to me because they want to channel so that they may learn, or they want to meditate so they may learn how to channel. I always don't suggest it. Everyone I know who channels now, they don't channel because they came in and said, hey, I want to learn how to channel. They're able to channel because they loved meditation. They loved connecting inward, and they loved connecting to other entities. This love of theirs, they're exploring into this, is what helped them achieve ability to channel. So I tell people, if you want to channel, you really have to dedicate yourself. Meditative state is a very good thing, but if you don't live that lifestyle, if you don't live the meditative lifestyle, channeling takes a very long time to hone in. It's a long time practice. It can be literally done, can be done by anyone. Some more probable than others, some more easily than others, but that doesn't mean it can't be done by everyone. The idea is that if you do anything that resembles channeling, if you do any high connection to higher portions of yourself, it really requires that dedication to connect to yourself. For me, channeling was secondary. I liked connecting to spirit. I tried to find information from spirit before I did channeling. But that concept is what the most exciting thing in my life was. My relationships, the people I loved around me was very important, very useful, but my greatest excitement was to meditate. Literally, my funnest thing of the day, because I was so disconnected for so long, because my days were always spent in hating the world I was around, not being able to love myself, hating the circumstances that I believe the world put on me. That meditation felt so good. It was like, literally, it was like a lot of people describe drugs as. It was just an uplifting, wonderful experience. And that kind of information that I receive now compared to then, it's way different. But the whole point, that feeling of connection, period, was enough to drive me. I was addicted to meditating. I was addicted to meditation. I was addicted to my closed eye awareness technique. I was addicted to being in a higher vibration. And I did it for a couple of years, and that's what set me in my journey to being able to channel. And this doesn't include the natural ability I had as a child. So for those of you who ever consider the idea of channeling, it can be done, and if you're dedicated. But a lot of people don't teach channeling anymore because, they think it's counterproductive. They think that it won't be able to be done in a short time. A lot of them charge for the service of teaching how to channel. So to be able to have someone there for 2 or 3 years and not guarantee, most people who care about other people's finances and their means to want to do that, they don't want to push someone that far. They don't want to push someone for 3 or 4 years, and maybe they'll never be able to channel because of their own personal beliefs, their own thing. So this is why meditation for channeling is not very often taught. But I think I'd like to hear you guys' opinions about that. I really would. I want to hear what other people think about classes, maybe for not only meditation like I've been trying to do, being so busy it's been a little rough, but teachings of how to channel, things that'll help people open up that channel state. I'd love to hear what you guys think about that. Obviously, we're going to be shutting her down here in a minute, but please, if you want to call next week, go ahead. If you want to leave us a message, if you go to the link, this one's not on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, go to Treb Channeling. Go to any video that you see under Treb Channeling that is titled at first Treb Channeling, and go down to the link that's labeled Open Forum. Open Forum or Open Forum page. And that's how to contact us for the show. We'll set up some more contact information in the description soon. But feel free to contact us. Let us know how the show's going for you. Let us know if you enjoy it. Let us know if it's a worthwhile thing to continue doing. I'm excited about it, so I think for me and George, that's all it's going to take. If one person doesn't write a letter, one person doesn't call, I still love to do it. I know people are listening. And that's another thing, too. Real quick before I go, I know I've been babbling on for the last few minutes here, but I really want to express my love to everyone. the support of the work we're doing here. I looked before we started, and the last episode had over 800 archived watches, and that is outstanding. Most of my channel videos on YouTube don't get that kind of hits in that quick of a time. Some of them don't ever get that kind of hits, 800. A lot of them get, around the 500. Some go over 1,500, 2,000. But my point is, none of that has ever happened within a couple-week period. Maybe it wasn't last week's show, it was the week before. One of those two had 800 views. That means people are clicking in who've never heard of Rob Gauthier, who've never heard of George Spirakis, who never heard of Treb Channeling, and they're listening to us. And apparently, we're keeping the attention of people enough to make it worth their listen. And that's all we want. Me and George both. Our motivation to do this is pure enjoyment and pure understanding that the collective only raises if you're willing to give of yourself to help others connect. Most people who come to this will be here for a reason. Most people who are listening to my voice now, there is a very deep reason in your life why you're here right now. Whether it's because you needed to hear about what was being said, or whether it was because you have to explore a new belief system, there is always a reason. I want to thank you guys so much for all your support. I really love you guys. George loves you guys too. He wanted me to send you his love and his apologies for not being here today. We really love you guys. And with that, we're going to shut it down for the night. This is the Rob and George Enlightenment Evolution Hour. This is Rob, and George isn't here. But we're out of here. We love you guys. We'll see you next week, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S. Call us in. Area code 347-308-8788. Call us, chat with us. We love to get it going on the talk board. Thanks, guys. Love you. Bye.